Hi, this is Dave,
This is Michael.
and we're here with another Marketing for Coaches video. Today, we wanted to talk a little bit about owning your identity as a coach a bit, and how to kind of put it out there. So I wanted to ask Michael. So, Michael, how do I put it out there that I'm a coach?
Yeah, it's a really simple question to answer in one way. I mean, the the truest, shortest answer is, well, you just put it out there. But I think it really gets to some underlying issues with it. And I mean, when
Right,
we first started talking to each other and talking with our clients about marketing for coaches, it surprised me the extent to which this was the challenge for
hmm,
for a lot of coaches out there to actually
yeah,
say that they're a coach, sometimes to themselves, sometimes they're
hmm,
fine saying it to themselves, but not to other people. And then as we talked and we look back too, we realized what a challenge this was for the two of us as
yeah.
well. You had a really
Like
good
what?
story about that. Do you want to share a little bit about what started to get in your way when you started coaching?
Sure,
Why wouldn't you tell people?
sure. I'll share mine, and then you share yours.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think for me, I was looking at the coaching industry, and it felt like there was a stigma or sort of a strange kind of lack of rigor or lack of respect even for certain coaching type coaches. Someone who says I'm a life coach, and people kind of look at that like, okay, what's that mean? Maybe I'm talking about myself, but I think others
Right.
as well. I think it's sort of like it's a slightly regulated industry, but not the same as maybe some others. And there's so many ways, different types of coaches and all that. So yeah, so I think for myself, I was leaving the the marketing world. So I was a VP of marketing and sales, and I'd had a track record at a couple of companies, and done a lot of things. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling this calling to be a coach, and I did 3 years of coaching training and various other certifications, and I put a lot of time into it. But then it's sort of like it
Hmm.
felt light to me. Like I'd be talking about, oh, I'm a coach, and it felt like just didn't have the gravitas of like I'm a VP of marketing. And so it felt like,
Right.
am I ashamed of it or something? And yeah, it took a little while to sort of just, I think even just integrate in my own body to feel like, oh, wow, I can talk about this, and to start putting it out there. So how to do it, I
Yeah.
think we could talk about that. But for me, it was just, starting to say it, starting to live it and interact with clients and people who are interested in coaching. And then it starts to feel more natural and real, and finding my own special way of coaching was really
Hmm.
huge too. That I felt like, oh, I do have something really to offer here, and in this way that I knew I would. But yeah, it was surprising how long it took to sort of really feel more solid at this point in my life. So yeah,
Yeah.
flipping the script to you a little bit. I'm
Right. Well, you know
curious.
what? Before
Oh,
before we
yeah,
flip, I
you have a
will I
question
will
there?
tell my story. It sounded
Hmm.
like I just wanted to check with you, Dave, the two things I heard there that were really important for how to overcome that, because I think a lot
Hmm.
of people are feeling it, are
Hmm.
you just practice, you just
Hmm.
try, and even if it's even
Yeah,
if it's to yourself, in the mirror or something like
yeah.
that.
Your
And then
voice memo on the
yeah.
phone is a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what if you were doing that, if you were doing a voice memo on the phone, what would you say to Dave, who was
Mm,
starting his coaching?
yeah, I think I would just talk about my experience coaching, and the experience my clients were having, and just say,
Hmm.
I'm so I think back when I first was starting, it was something like I was an executive coach, and I am an executive coach, putting it in the
Yeah.
present and saying I work with clients who are struggling in their tech role, or new manager role, new director role, new VP role, trying to figure out how to uh, balance all the stresses of work and life, and find their way to more integrity with their position or something. And I just would riff on it for a few different sessions and try to find things that felt really that they were settled in. So
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
these
Thank you.
days, I tell it a little more succinctly. I just say that, yeah, I'm an executive coach, and I am in the business of relieving suffering wherever I can.
Great.
So that feels like a catch-all to me, and that feels more uh, succinct.
hmm
So,
And that was the second thing I wanted to
yeah,
point out too, is it sounded like the more you practiced and the more you coached, the more you actually had clients and
right.
were getting experience as a coach, the easier this part, actually naming yourself as a coach and
Mhm.
feeling the gravitas that wasn't there at the beginning.
Right.
Sounded like that was kind of a byproduct of coaching itself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
Coaching and all the conversations around coaching, I think, yeah, it all sorts
Yeah,
of, it's like a garden, and the
right.
soils eventually starts to yield some uh, real plants.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, thank you for letting me just point those things out.
Yeah,
I am
absolutely. No,
ready
I think
to
hope
bare
that's
my
helpful.
soul now.
Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, get naked here, Michael.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so what was it like for you kind of putting it out there that you were a coach after you did all of your training and work?
Oh, not easy. I
Uh-huh.
resisted it for a long time. I did the same really intensive coaching education that you did,
Hmm.
and took a lot of pride in that. And I think it
Yeah.
really helped. I don't regret it at all. And I was really I don't know, uneasy with the gap between the rigor, the care, the time and resources I invested into this, and the kind of image out there of coaching as kind of like a millennial social media scam. And I
Right.
was
Right.
I was 29 years old when I
Yeah.
started learning to be a coach.
Oh, wow.
My previous career was okay for a
Hmm.
person my age, but I didn't really like it. I never really wanted to talk about it. I wasn't coming into coaching as a former executive looking to help other former executives or anything like that.
Right.
So I felt a little thin in
Hmm.
terms of my business and professional background.
Hmm.
And in the absence of that, you'd asked a really interesting question before we started recording earlier, like if you're a life coach, does that mean you have to have life all figured out? And that's
Right.
certainly something I was struggling with at the time as well. And
Yeah.
what I did about it was very similar to you. I mean, just practice, figure out, what I wanted to be saying and who I wanted to be saying it to. I
Mhm.
think the other thing too is people sometimes have the idea that when you have this figured out, your elevator pitch is going to be attractive to everyone. I don't
Right.
think that is ever the case.
Yeah.
When you were talking earlier about what you say now, I'm an executive coach and I'm looking to alleviate suffering in the world. I imagine, Dave, you tell me if I'm wrong.
Hmm.
There are people that really light up in response to that, and they might be your people, and people who just look at you blankly,
Hmm.
and that's how you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that, we all, I mean, in any profession, right? That's the case. I mean, it's
Hmm.
like there's just people you resonate with and you feel the connection, and others you're like, I wouldn't trust this mechanic, or I would, or I wouldn't, whatever it is, doesn't have to be coaching. But I
Yeah.
think certainly because coaching is so personal, I think we maybe hyper tune in, if that's a word. We become very focused on the words they're using and the gestures and the way that they're speaking, because that's going to be someone working with me inside my own
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah,
it does,
exactly. I mean,
yeah,
that voice,
matters.
those gestures, that's going to be the instruments they're using to help you, explore
Right.
whatever it is you're going to be exploring. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think part of it for me was
So
giving myself permission. Yeah, that
how'd you
like
get
what we
over
were
it?
just saying, just realizing, well, this is gonna really land with some,
Hmm.
and
Right.
others are going to think it's millennial bullshit, despite my credentials, despite the
Right.
time and the care I put into
Yeah.
this, and that's out of my control. I
Hmm.
think I just became determined to do my part, which
Hmm.
is to put it out there that I'm a coach,
Yeah.
and and let other people's confusion be their confusion,
Right.
or
Right.
their distrust or whatever. And like I said, there is some crap out there, and people do
Sure.
have the right to be skeptical,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
probably should be, and
Right.
that's I think I it helped to spend some time with myself to connect with the differences I've made, the things people have shared about the impact my coaching has had, as a way to ground in, okay,
Hmm. Yeah.
there's bad stuff out there, but here's the thing I'm doing, and I feel comfortable making my living through it. The
Right.
other thing too related to what we were saying before about thinking you need to have life all figured out to
Right.
give people advice or something like that, is actually coaching isn't giving people advice. And
Right.
that's that's part of the stigma, and that's part of the assumptions that
Right.
people are making. I think it's about the art of listening, and
Right.
like the art of caring, the art of giving a shit,
Mhm.
for
Right.
lack of a better term. And that I feel
Absolutely.
both well trained in and sort of having the moral and ethical capacity to do.
Right.
I'm totally comfortable doing that and resting in my listening and my caring with my
Right.
clients without worrying about having every single facet of life figured out.
Yeah. Yeah, we can all learn from anywhere, right? And I think
Hmm.
if you have someone that's dedicated a lot of hours and time and care to wanting to be a better listener and a better inquisitor, or uh, and also a framer, someone who can sort of think about the discussion you're having.
Yeah.
We say the container of coaching, but also how they can think about how are we leaving things at the end of the session, how are we starting things, and someone that's kind of tending the garden of your development. I think that's a pretty amazing thing to have access to, whether they know your world or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
I that's why I get a thing often that with executive coaching where I coach different industries, and I don't need to know anything about their industry to be helpful. It's like I've coached such wide array of industries. It's amazing to me even, and what I've learned, and yet people are people, and as you start to listen and hear where the suffering is, where the challenges are, the fear, the agitation, all that stuff, you just start to explore with the client, and before you know it, you're both exploring and they're uncovering things. So it's yeah, this thing about having to know all the answers
Hmm.
is not helpful. Uh,
No.
Stigma, but I think and I also want to say one thing. I don't think that it's like there's a lot of um, bad actors out there trying to be life coaches. I just think
Hmm.
there's well-intentioned people who maybe just haven't invested as much time or care into their own training yet and experience, and maybe
Yeah.
they're still getting that experience, and that's all fine. But sometimes they're just they mean well, but maybe it's not for you. But it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that all coaches should be ashamed of this strange title or calling that we have. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
I
great to
think
put it out there, like you said.
it'll find its place in
Yeah,
society. I think
I think
a
it it,
hundred
it
years
has found.
ago,
Yeah,
yeah, 100 years ago, this is probably whatever version of YouTube they had. This is
right.
probably how
Yeah,
psychiatrists felt and talked about their profession, and the what a revolutionary thing it was at the time, and
right,
the extent to which people thought talking to someone else could actually help.
right.
The
Hmm.
world and society and
Yeah.
the place of conversation within it is constantly changing and evolving. And
Hmm.
I'm starting to find it exciting to be on
Yeah.
this vanguard that not everyone understands.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I love it. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm
It's such a
letting
great modality.
people.
It's like
Hmm.
just to be able to, I mean, work with people where they are right now isn't therapy. We're not going to go back and
Yep.
talk about your parents. We're going to talk about where you are right now. And it's amazing to think, why would we not want to put that out there? If you were a contractor, like for someone's home, and you said, hey, they want a new kitchen, I'll build you a new kitchen.
Yeah.
But it's like they wouldn't be shy about putting that out there. But when someone's saying, hey, I'm struggling with reaching the next place I want to go, we're like, oh, can I say that I do this? So, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, so
So
that's great.
hopefully after watching this, you feel like you
Yeah.
can. You say it.
Yeah. Right.
Be someone's figurative,
Yeah.
interior renovator.
Yeah. Yeah. Say it, claim it. And yeah, wish you all luck, and hope this is helpful. So then thanks, Michael, for
Yeah.
exploring. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.